Before the glitter, before the sold-out arenas, before the world knew his name, a 4-year-old boy stood on a tiny stage in Honolulu, shaking, singing,
4-year-old Bruno, tomorrow's king of rock and roll,
and hoping anyone would notice. He had music in his blood, but nothing else. No fame, no fortune, no safety net. How do you survive when the world seems set against you? How do you turn a childhood of hardship into superstardom? This is the untold story of the boy who refused to vanish and became Bruno Mars' Rhythm and Survival. Peter Gene Hernandez was born on October 8, 1985, in Honolulu, Hawaii, into a family where music wasn't a hobby. It was oxygen. His father, Peter Hernandez, was a Latin percussionist from Brooklyn, Puerto Rican and Ashkenazi Jewish, who had moved to Hawaii chasing a dream and a woman. His mother, Bernadette San Pedro Bayot, she was a singer and hula dancer from the Philippines.
Bernadette resided in Hawaii, where she was a former hula dancer and singer
who had a voice that could stop traffic. They met performing in a show together, fell in love the way musicians do, completely, recklessly, and without any kind of financial plan, and built a family that ran on passion and almost nothing else. Bruno was the fourth of 6 children.
Bruno is one of 6 children and was known for performing for his family as an Elvis impersonator.
And in the Hernandez household, everyone performed. His brother Eric was a drummer. His sisters sang. Family gatherings weren't gatherings, they were concerts. Every uncle played an instrument. Every cousin could carry a tune. The living room was the rehearsal space. The dinner table was the stage. And if you couldn't hold a rhythm, you were the odd one out. By the time Bruno was 2 years old, his father noticed something unusual. The boy didn't just listen to music, he locked onto it. He'd hear a James Brown song on the radio and start moving in ways that a toddler shouldn't be able to move.
The reason why I like Elvis is the same reason why I like James Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince. You know, these guys know how to go up on stage with their band and control their environment.
Not just bobbing his head, performing, hitting accents, finding the groove like it was a language he already spoke. At 3, his father started bringing him on stage during the family's live show, a variety revue called The Love Notes that played in Waikiki hotels for tourists. By 4, Bruno was doing a full Elvis impersonation that was so good, so eerily accurate, that audiences couldn't believe what they were seeing. A tiny Filipino Puerto Rican kid from Honolulu channeling the king of rock and roll with more conviction than most adult performers could manage. The nickname came fast: Little Elvis.
the world's youngest Elvis impersonator, Bruno.
And it wasn't a gimmick. This kid was a genuine phenomenon. He appeared in a local newspaper, then local television. And then, at 5 years old, he was flown to Los Angeles to appear in the movie Honeymoon in Vegas, playing a mini Elvis impersonator alongside Nicolas Cage. He was 5. Most 5-year-olds are learning to tie their shoes. Bruno was on a Hollywood film set. He also appeared on the Arsenio Hall show. Arsenio brought him out, and this tiny kid just owned the stage. The audience went wild. Arsenio looked at the camera like he was witnessing something that defied explanation. Because he was. But here's the thing about child prodigies that nobody warns you about. The spotlight is warm, but it doesn't pay the rent. And back home in Hawaii, the Hernandez family was barely surviving. They lived in a modest apartment that Bruno has described in interviews as having serious problems.
Where we were staying at first, didn't have a bathroom, but the bed would be right there in the middle.
Yeah, and you'd all sleep in one bed?
We'd all sleep in one bed.
Pest infestations, cramped quarters, and the kind of place where the walls were thin enough to hear every argument on the block. His parents' love, which had been the foundation of everything, was starting to crack under the weight of financial stress and the impossible economics of raising 6 children on a musician's income in one of the most expensive states in America. The music kept playing, but behind it, the foundation was already crumbling. And what came next would change Bruno's life in ways that nothing, not talent, not fame, not 15 Grammys, could ever fully undo. Childhood, love, loss. When Bruno was 11, his world shifted in ways no child should endure. His parents separated, and with that split, the heart of the Hernandez family, the music, stopped. The love notes show, the thing that had bound them together, fractured. And the harmonies that floated through kitchens, the rehearsals that gave their lives rhythm and purpose, the feeling of being part of something bigger than themselves, all of it vanished overnight. His mother, Bernadette, took the children. His father moved out, and the financial security that had always been fragile collapsed entirely. Bruno has spoken sparingly about this period, never dramatizing it, but the facts are stark.
This is what I am, this is my music, take it or leave it. I walked in there with nothing, played a guitar, and they're like, oh, you can sing, we'll sign you. It was a different time back then too. I don't even know if there was like iTunes out or anything.
Yeah.
There were nights when the family didn't know where the next meal would come from, periods when stability was a distant dream. His mother juggled multiple jobs just to keep them afloat, and sometimes even that wasn't enough. The boy who had once been on Hollywood sets and national television was now worrying about survival. Where will we sleep tonight? Will there be food? Is Mom going to make it? Then, in June 2013, the unthinkable happened. Bernadette Hernandez died of a brain aneurysm at just 55.
Sad news for Bruno Mars fans occurred over the weekend when the singer's mom suddenly passed away at the age of 55.
She wasn't simply Bruno's mother. She was his foundation. The woman who had sewn his first Elvis costume by hand, driven him to every audition, every opportunity, even when money was scarce, and believed in him when the world had not yet noticed. She was the quiet force behind every note, every rehearsal, every moment he refused to give up. By 2013, Bruno had achieved what had once seemed impossible. Doo-wops and hooligans had launched him to superstardom. He finally had the resources to give her everything she deserved, to take her anywhere in the world, to fill front-row seats at every stadium show, to show her the life she had sacrificed for him. He never got the chance. In interviews, when asked about his mother, Bruno often stops. The charm falls away, and the smile disappears. The grief is raw and immediate. He speaks through pauses and blinks, saying simply that he wishes she could have seen it all. That absence echoes through every milestone.
I want to dedicate this award to my mother, Ma. I know you watching. I hope you're smiling. I love you.
Each Grammy, every sold-out arena, each standing ovation. And it's that grief, the weight of losing her, that he channels into his music. When I Was Your Man is not just a breakup song, it is an elegy, a message to someone gone too soon. The regret in his voice, the aching awareness of impermanence, hits differently when you understand the loss he carries. Bernadette's absence is woven into every note, every pause, every heartbreak he sings, reminding us that behind Bruno Mars' dazzling performances is a boy from Honolulu still carrying the love of the mother who gave him everything and left too soon. Persistence becomes power after high school. Bruno did what every kid from a small town with a big dream eventually does. He moved to Los Angeles. He was 17, carrying a bag, a guitar, and the kind of confidence that only comes from not knowing how brutal the music industry could be. Hawaii had been a cocoon, a place where everyone knew him, where being Little Elvis meant something. Los Angeles didn't care. LA had 10,000 Little Elvises, and they were all sleeping in cars too. And that's not an exaggeration. Bruno has spoken about nights spent crashing on couches, sleeping in studios after hours, or squeezing into the back of a car just to have a roof over his head. He knocked on every door, every record label, every management office that would let him pass the lobby. And the answer was always the same. No. Not no. Try again later. Not no. You're almost ready. Just no. Some were polite, some weren't. One label told him he didn't have the look to be a star. Another said his music was too retro, too eclectic, too hard to categorize. In a business that thrives on boxes, Bruno fit none of them. He could sing R&B, but wasn't an R&B artist. He could rock, but wasn't a rock artist. He could do pop, but his sound was too soulful for the pop machine. Even Motown, the legendary label built on artists just like him, signed him and then shelved him. He sat on their roster like a forgotten file, watching others get promoted while he collected dust. But this is where Bruno's story diverges from 10,000 other hopefuls who vanish in LA. He didn't wait. He worked. He started writing songs for others.
I know that Bruno is a great singer, but did you know that he writes songs for other artists too?
Linking up with Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine to form the Smeezingtons. Bruno Mars, the artist, might have been ignored, but Bruno Mars, the songwriter, was quietly shaping modern pop from behind the studio console. He co-wrote hits like Right Round for Flo Rida, Nothin' on You for B.O.B., and Billionaire with Travie McCoy. Millions of people heard his music every day, almost never knowing his name. Those songwriting victories finally forced the industry to pay attention. Atlantic Records listened to the demos he'd poured his heart into, the songs he created while everyone else polished theirs, and realized what every other label had missed. This kid wasn't just a songwriter. He was a once-in-a-generation artist. They signed him, and this time, they didn't shelve him. Hits and heartbreak. When Just the Way You Are dropped in 2010, it didn't just chart, it detonated. #1 across multiple countries, to platinum certifications raining down like confetti. But it wasn't the marketing or production that made it special. It was honesty, the simplicity, a song that told the world, you're perfect exactly as you are. No irony, no cynicism. Just Bruno Mars, looking straight into the camera, meaning every word. And the world wasn't ready for how much it needed that. Hits kept coming. Grenade, The Lazy Song, Locked Out of Heaven, When I Was Your Man. Each one pulling from a different genre, a different era, a different emotional register. Bruno wasn't just a pop star, he was a jukebox with a soul. A man who could channel Motown, new wave, funk, reggae, and make it feel seamless. Doo-wops and hooligans went multi-platinum. Unorthodox Jukebox proved it wasn't a fluke. Then came Super Bowl 48 in 2014. At 28, Bruno headlined the halftime show, watched by over 115 million people. Drums, guitar, vocals, dancing, every second executed with precision, wrapped in joy. But between the triumphs, there was a moment that could have ended it all. In September 2010, just as his career was exploding, Bruno was arrested in Las Vegas for cocaine possession.
Bruno Mars, the musician known for his work with B.O.B. and Flo Rida, as well as his under arrest.
24 years old, first #1 single, sitting in a holding cell, wondering if decades of hard work were about to vanish. The media pounced. The narrative threatened to swallow him. Bruno didn't deflect. He didn't spin a story. He took responsibility, completed community service, paid his fines, and never repeated the mistake. That wasn't damage control, it was character. A young man who had seen the consequences of the wrong choices, and refused to let them claim him. And then came 24 Karat Magic in 2016, an album so sharp, so meticulously crafted that it swept the Grammys. Bruno stood on stage with tears barely hidden, thinking not of trophies, but of his mom. Later, Silk Sonic, his collaboration with Anderson .Paak, paid homage to 1970s soul, winning Record of the Year and Song of the Year. In an era dominated by algorithms and viral trends, Bruno Mars proved there is always room for musicians who truly know how to play and to feel. Love, rumors, and resilience. Success didn't solve everything. It never does. For all the platinum records and sold-out tours, Bruno Mars's life has been marked by the quiet struggles that never make the highlight reels. His relationship with Jessica Cabin, a model and actress from New York, has been one of the most private, stable partnerships in the entertainment world. Since 2011, they've stayed out of the tabloids, avoiding spectacle and drama, building something real away from cameras. But privacy comes at a cost. The less Bruno shares, the louder the speculation grows. The gambling rumors are a case in point. Stories emerged claiming debts to MGM resorts, with figures fluctuating wildly depending on the source. Social media amplified fragments into narrative, turning assumption into headlines. Bruno's team has disputed the extreme claims, but the coverage revealed something uncomfortable. We celebrate artists when they're winning and feast on them when they're struggling. Pain becomes content. Mistakes become memes. The person behind it all is rarely considered. Bruno Mars works relentlessly. His Las Vegas residency, global tours, collaborations, and production projects leave no room for pause. And whether he works because he loves it, or because stopping forces him to face his grief, only he knows. And the weight he carries isn't about money or fame. His mother's death still shapes everything. Ask him about her in interviews, and the performance falters. The entertainer steps aside, and the boy from Honolulu, the kid who wore a gold Elvis costume she sewed, the one who learned music at her side, emerges briefly before retreating. He doesn't share his father's struggles publicly. He shields his family from the spotlight. He protects the people he loves with a ferocity that borders on obsession. In a world that rewards oversharing, his restraint is both admirable and isolating. The thing about Bruno Mars is this: he gives everything on stage, every note, every drop of sweat, every ounce of energy. And then he walks off and gives nothing else. The wall goes up, the smile stays, and whatever he's grappling with, sadness, fear, anger, he faces alone or with the few people he trusts. For the rest of us, the music is enough. Maybe it's even more than enough. Maybe it's how he tells us everything he can't say out loud. Success through struggle. Here's what the numbers say about Bruno Mars. Over 200 million records sold. 15 Grammy Awards.
Next up is Bruno Mars, the 16-time Grammy winners.
Multiple diamond-certified singles. A distinction reserved for songs that have sold over 10 million copies each. He's one of the best-selling music artists of all time. He has headlined the Super Bowl twice. His Las Vegas residency regularly sells out within minutes. He has written hits for himself and for dozens of other artists. He is, by every objective metric, it's one of the most successful musicians of his generation. But numbers are just numbers. They tell you what someone achieved. They don't tell you what it costs. What the numbers don't capture is the 4-year-old kid doing Elvis in a gold jacket. Not because he wanted to be famous, but because performing was the only language his family spoke fluently. They don't capture the teenager sleeping in his car in Los Angeles, eating whatever he could afford, calling home to a family that was falling apart and pretending everything was fine. They don't capture the grown man standing on a Grammy stage, trying not to cry, because the one person who should have been there wasn't. Bruno Mars didn't become a superstar because the universe was kind to him. He became a superstar in spite of the fact that it wasn't. And maybe that's why his music resonates the way it does. Because underneath the funk and the swagger and the perfectly choreographed dance moves, there's something unmistakably real. An ache, a hunger, a joy that's been hard-won and could be lost at any moment. When Bruno Mars sings about love, you believe him. Not because he has a great voice, although he does, but because you can feel that he's singing from a place where love was never guaranteed, where it had to be fought for, where it was sometimes lost. He changed pop music. That's not hyperbole. Before Bruno, the industry was moving toward a model where artists didn't need to sing live, didn't need to play instruments, didn't need to do anything except look good and stand near a microphone while a computer did the rest. Bruno walked into that landscape and said, "No, I'm going to sing, I'm going to play, I'm going to dance, and I'm going to do it all better than anyone else in the room." And he did. And in doing so, he reminded an entire industry that musicianship isn't a relic. It's the whole point. He's influenced a generation of artists, from Anderson.Paak to Silk Sonic fans who discovered 70s soul through a 21st century album, to every kid in a small town who picked up a guitar because they watched Bruno Mars play one on YouTube and thought, maybe I can do that too. But beyond the influence and the accolades, what makes Bruno Mars matter is something simpler and harder to define. It's the fact that he's human, fully, messily, beautifully human. He's made mistakes. He's grieved. He's struggled with things the public may never fully understand. And through all of it, he kept showing up. So keep writing, keep playing, kept walking onto stages in front of thousands of strangers and giving them everything he had, even on the nights when he had almost nothing left to give. That's not talent. That's something deeper. That's will. Bruno Mars's story didn't end when the stadium lights went down. Every song, every performance, every triumph carries the echoes of a kid who had nothing but a dream and refused to quit. So the question isn't just how he made it. It's this: what would you risk? What would you endure to make sure your voice is heard? Because the story doesn't end with success. It's only just beginning.